Well, after week 16, lots of stuff has changed, and only two teams have clinched. And there's still currently a game going on, but I think we all know how the Monday night game is going to go. Let's talk football. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. So, sports are everything on this channel. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we are talking about my Week 17 NFL predictions and power rankings this time. No best performances and worst performances of the week for the remainder of my predictions. But, man, we got a lot of good stuff to get into. Last week, I went 10 and set the 12 and 4. This week, if currently things are sticking out with the Packers and Saints, I'm currently doing this so that way I can get ahead of schedule. I will be 10 and 6 if the Packers win. And of course, this is as I'm making this video, which ties my last year's total right picks at 166. That means if I get at least one more right, I will surpass my amount from last season. So, been getting better at my picks, and man, I'm having a good year this year. But we have a lot of stuff to get into. You, of course, have the Ravens beating the Steelers. You had the Chiefs beating the Houston Texans. But lots of great games that were taking place, and we'll get into that and more here in just a second. Before we get started, if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get this thing started. All right, so to make things go by quicker, I'm just going to give out my top 10 teams entering NFL Week 17. So here they are from 10 to 1. 10 Chargers, 9 Rams, 8 Ravens, 7 Commanders, 6 Packers, 5 Eagles, 4 Vikings, Chiefs 3, Lions 2, and Bills at number 1. Primarily, we all know how these teams are up here because they are really good. Chiefs, I bounced up one because of what happened to Philly. The Eagles lost, of course, to the Commanders. Of course, Jalen Hurts did get hurt, and it was with a concussion now. So I do have some concerns, but the two honorable mentions are the Bengals and the Seahawks. Seahawks, I did like what they did against Minnesota. I did like that they made it close, but of course, they couldn't get it done at the end. But other than that, the Ravens were able to clinch as well. But now let's jump in to the predictions. Starting us off, you got one of two Christmas games, and man, there are going to be some good ones at that. You got the Kansas City Chiefs going on the road to Pittsburgh to take on the black and gold incarnation of winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers, as I like to call them. But the Chiefs beating Houston last week, the second game that they've had in a row where they actually blew out teams that didn't make it close. So I bounced them up to number 3 for that reason in my power rankings. But they're going to be taking on the black and gold incarnation of winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers did not have a great day, and Russell Wilson recorded for not one, but 2 turnovers, and fumbling the ball at the 5-yard line ain't that different from passing the ball at the 1-yard line.
It's not funny, Ed. Hey, shut up!
But of course, that play still gives me nightmares. But anyways, the Steelers. I've said this for a few weeks now, and at the beginning of the season. Russell Wilson, if they're going to win a playoff game, he needs to play perfect. He cannot have any turnovers. And when you are going to be going against a possible Houston, Broncos, Chargers, or Ravens, you need to step it up. And this Steelers team, I just do not feel confident in them at all when it comes into the playoff picture. Because if Russell Wilson makes a mistake, they're going to lose. Because Russell Wilson needs to play perfect, mistake-free football and not have an incompletion as well. But also the absence of George Pickens has been felt as well. And Patrick Mahomes last week didn't play like he had a high ankle sprain.
What the was that?
I'm wondering if the Chiefs should be investigated for a fake injury. I'm wondering because I want Kansas City to be investigated just for that reason. But I am gonna go with the Chiefs because one, they are winners and they can win no matter what, and number two, I just think that the Chiefs Kingdom are going to be on the road in Pittsburgh because we've seen the stadium get taken over before. I think Kansas City is going to take over Pittsburgh. So I'm going to go with Kansas City to get the win over the black and gold Steelers. However, I would not be surprised if I was wrong. And the second Christmas game, you got the Baltimore Ravens going on the road to Houston to take on the Texans. The Ravens finally exercising their demons against the black and gold Steelers. Man, Lamar Jackson during his early parts has struggled against the black and gold. But this time, Lamar Jackson had the last laugh. So I did like what they did. The defense has been constantly getting better, but also their offense is starting to cook now. They're going to be taking on Houston that lost Tank Dell for the season, and it got so bad that they went for former Ravens player Dante Johnson, in off of waivers from Baltimore. So it got that bad. But the Texans, I'm just not confident in them right now because they're just so riddled with injuries, especially at the receiver core. I do like their defense, however. That defense is really, really good. They already clinched their division, so I don't think Houston's going to get any higher positioning than this. I am, however, going to go with the Ravens because Lamar Jackson has been playing the best ball he's ever had. And I believe right now he's the MVP front runner right ahead of Josh Allen because one of those two is going to win MVP, and I for sure hope it's Josh Allen. But Lamar Jackson, still have tons of respect for him. But I have the Ravens getting the win over the Houston Texans. And then on Thursday night, you got a must win game for the away team. You got the Seattle mother loving Seahawks going on the road to Chicago to take on the Bears. The Seahawks made it close with Minnesota. I did like that, but in the end, Geno Smith just gave the game away. Whenever Geno has been in that pressuring situation where they're down, he's kind of like Dak Prescott. Can't get the job done.
Enough of that. Go away, damn you! Oh, you're going to get it now!
But we all know that since he's been riddled with a lot of interceptions this year. But they're going to be taking on the number one pick, Caleb Williams, and the Bears. This game is going to be interesting. The Bears last week, of course, getting demolished by the Detroit Lions. I had a little mix up words. But the Seahawks, they need to win this game in order to keep their playoff hopes alive. Because if they win this game, they would be in a win and in scenario against LA next week. Because if they win, they would need to beat LA to get into the playoffs and ultimately win the division. I'm not expecting that to happen because the way the Rams have been looking recently, but it's going to be a dogfight in that week 18. So I'm going to go with Seattle to get the win, keeping their slim playoff hopes alive. But next week in LA, oh man, that is going to be a lot of fireworks. And no matter what happens, it's a successful year because we're higher than the 49ers, that the 49ers are right now in last place right now. So I'm going to go with Seahawks, get the win over the Bears, and Rams, see y'all next week. And then you got a very high playoff implication game for both sides. You got the Denver Broncos going on the road to Cincy to take on the Bengals. The Broncos, after having the Thursday night game last week, flex the Thursday night, they did not shine up when the lights were brightest. Bo Nix was not doing really good, but the Chargers, they were looking pretty darn impressive. But they're going to be taking on the Bengals. The Bengals still trying to fight to keep their playoff hopes alive. Of course, there's a lot of implications going high. Denver, if they win one more, they're automatically in. Then Cincinnati, they would need to win out and then have something happen to one of the other playoff teams. I believe it was Indianapolis losing one, if I'm correct. But oh man, this I believe this game is going to be a very close game. It's going to be a very fought battle because both these sides are fighting for their playoffs. But if Cincinnati makes the playoffs, they could possibly threaten anyone else in the AFC. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos. I'm not entirely confident in that, but the way that the Bo Nix has been looking, I do like the way he's looking, but I'm going to go with the Broncos to get the win over the Bengals, keeping the Broncos' hopes alive and clinching a playoff berth for the first time since Peyton Manning. Hey, you got an NFC West showdown set up for the week next week. You got the Arizona Cardinals going on the road to LA, or is it really on the road, to take on the Rams. The Cardinals had to lose to the freaking Carolina Panthers.
Who told you that was okay? I want names. I want faces. I want to know. Because the ain't okay.
I mean, I had the Cardinals picked, but how do you lose to Carolina? And that ultimately eliminated the Arizona Cardinals from the playoffs. So their window is shut. And I said this. I was not entirely sold on Arizona because they haven't been able to get past Seattle for 7 games. They've been beaten down every time they face Seattle, and until they beat them, I still will not be sold on them until that happens. They're going to be taking on the Rams that are right now fighting for the division, and they would clinch it this week if the Seahawks lost to the Bears, and of course they win against Arizona. So I do think the Rams are a little bit good. I'm not entirely sold on them, even though they got a good win against Buffalo. This team is just such a frustrating team. They're consistent to a point, and then they're somehow inconsistent. I do like Jared Verse and also Brendan Fisk. Those are 2 really good pickups. Also, I got to give a shout out to Kobe Turner because I was watching Masked Singer and I had no idea this brother could sing. He's not only an active player, but he's just got an amazing voice. I got to admit, I got to give that man credit. But I'm going to go with the Rams because the Cardinals, I'm not sold on them, and I have not been sold on them. So I'm going to go with the Rams to get the win over the Cardinals, and Rams, we'll see what happens next week. And then, oh, you got an ugly game for New England. You got the Los Angeles Chargers going on the road to New England to take on the Patriots. The Chargers making a shocking statement over the Denver Broncos. And man, ever since Jim Harbaugh arrived in the Chargers organization, things have been different. And once a very poor fan base has now dramatically changed. Because the Chargers, they are fighting for a playoff spot. And if they win this week, they're also in, I believe, if I'm correct. But they're going to be taking on the Patriots that made a close game with Buffalo as of late. Drake May, I gotta say, he is looking really freaking good. I gotta admit. And the Patriots got a bright future ahead of them for the first time since Tom Brady, which I'm not thinking they're going to win a championship post Tom Brady. But the Chargers, I do think they are more favored in this matchup. I do like the way their defense has been playing. I'm going to go with the Chargers because even though the Patriots put up a fight with Buffalo, I don't think they are going to be able to match up with this Chargers offense and defense. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to get the win over the Patriots. So, New England, yeah, I'm sorry. But not really because your team has caused me a lot of pain. And then you've got an NFC East showdown that might have just gotten more interesting. You got the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to Philly to take on the Eagles. Cowboys, I don't know what is going on with this team. They are not tanking right because they look bad, but for some weird reason they win games. But they're eliminated from the playoffs, so they have pretty much nothing to play for. They're going to be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles that lost to the Commanders last week. But they got some troubling news as Jalen Hurts went out with the concussion.
No. Wait. Wait.
So if he's not playing this game, it will be Kenny Pickett against Cooper Rush. So here's the thing. I don't trust Cooper Rush because the Philadelphia defense has been looking really good. They forced 5 takeaways on the Commanders, and still the Commanders won. So I just don't know with the Eagles. I really don't know. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to get the sweep because Dallas, I just don't trust Cooper Rush. I trust Kenny Pickett more than I do Cooper Rush. But if Jalen Hurts does play, that'll give a little more boost of confidence. But I think that Philly's going to beat Dallas regardless. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to get the win over the Cowboys and sweeping them for the first time in a while. And you've got a very interesting game and one team fighting for their playoff lives. You got the Miami Dolphins going on the road to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Dolphins beaten down on the San Francisco 49ers last week, but allowing Deebo Samuel to break out that game. But the Dolphins, they need to win out some games and then have a few things happen with some other teams in order to get in. But the Browns, they're going to be taking on the Browns. The Browns just got absolutely bum rushed last week against the Cincinnati Bengals. But here's the thing. Miami does not play well in the cold. And Cleveland, they are a cold place. And here's the thing. Tua is 0-12 when playing in 40 degrees or lower. So I kind of want to go with Miami, just the way they've been looking. But because it's a cold game, I'm actually going to go with the Browns. And let me explain why. The Browns, their defense has been looking pretty good. I just don't trust Tua out in the cold. So I'm going to go with the Browns to get the win, ending the Dolphins season. And Ed, you got one playoff team fighting for their lives. You got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the New York Football Giants.
All hail the New York Giants!
The Colts keeping their playoff hopes alive after a nail biter with Tennessee. They are still fighting for their playoff lives. They're not entirely eliminated yet, but it's getting close. They're going to be taking on the New York Football Giants that, yeah, they're the worst team in the NFL. Getting blown out by the rookie out of Washington, Michael Penix, and the Atlanta Falcons, which I did not know that he was going to start that game because of what's been going on with Kirk Cousins. But I got to give Penix credit. I'll get into him later. But I am going to go with the Colts. I just trust the Colts more than I do the Giants. And the Giants right now are one of the worst teams in the league. And I just think the Giants, they're now number 1 pick caliber. But yeah, I'm just sorry, Giants. And then you've got an AFC East showdown. You got the New York Fraudulent Jets going on the road to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Jets, oh my gosh, this team is just so frustrating. They had a chance to beat LA, but couldn't do it because Aaron Rodgers, he's just been looking like a shell of himself. Even though Davante Adams is still looking pretty good, I just don't trust them because the Jets are the Jets, one of the worst, most terrible, irrelevant franchises in the NFL. They're taking on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills having a close call against the Patriots.
Oh my goodness. That was a close one.
But still, they were able to get the win. And Josh Allen is right now in the MVP conversation, and according to people, are right now ahead of Lamar Jackson. I'm not sure about that because, I mean, although I would love to see Josh Allen win it, I just don't see it because of the way Lamar has been playing. I think he's going to win his back-to-back MVP, and I just don't know because I want Josh Allen to win it, but Lamar is kind of looking better than Josh Allen. I know the Bills have the better record, but still, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go with the Bills, though, because I just don't see the Jets even putting a fight in this game because it's on the road in Buffalo. Bills Mafia will be there. So I'm going to go with the Bills to get the win over the New York Fraudulent Jets. And you got an AFC South matchup. You got the Tennessee Titans going on the road to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Last time, Mac Jones was able to beat the Titans. But this game is going to be interesting. Titans having a close game with the Colts, but Mason Rudolph ultimately ain't the solution. He fared well much more in Pittsburgh than he does in Tennessee. But they're going to be taking on the Jaguars that lost last week to the Raiders. But, of course, the Raiders ruined their chances of the number one pick. But I'm going to go with the Jags because Jaguars have seemed to have the number against Tennessee. I just don't trust Mason Rudolph or Will Levis. I just don't trust them. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars to get the win over the Titans. And Titans, yeah, I'm just sorry for you. And then you got the Las Vegas Raiders going on the road to New Orleans to take on the Saints. The Raiders winning last week, but also ruining their chances of landing a quarterback at number one. So the Raiders, they've been an interesting team. I just think they need a tank for a quarterback because that's pretty much what they need, primarily in Cam Ward. They're going to be taking on the New Orleans Saints that are right now down 21-0 against the Green Bay Packers. As I'm currently making this, I'm trying to make this as soon as possible because I'm trying to get it done before Wednesday. So this will be out by hopefully Tuesday, which is tomorrow. So because of what's going on right now, I think the Raiders are going to try to continue their tank. So as of right now, I'm going to go with the Saints because the Saints, they've been looking pretty good, but Spencer Rattler, I think he's the guy for them. But as of right now, I think the Raiders are going to continue to tank, and the Saints are going to get the win over the Raiders. And you got an NFC South showdown. You got the Carolina Panthers going on the road to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucks. The Panthers beating the Cardinals last week, and Bryce Young haters have kind of been silenced.
What? What?
As Bryce Young, he was amazing. Also, along with Chuba Hubbard, they were looking pretty darn impressive, and I gotta give them credit where credit is due. They're gonna be taking on the Bucks that lost on Sunday night against the Cowboys, and the Buccaneers have been a frustrating team because last play of the game, Rachaad White fumbled the ball on the first play of that following possession. The Buccaneers have been a very 50-50 team. You just don't know what they're going to do. But Baker, I just think right now I trust the Buccaneers more than I do with the Carolina Panthers, especially being played in Tampa Bay. I do believe the Panthers are going to put up a fight just like they did last time. However, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers to get the win over the Carolina Panthers because I trust in Baker more than I do Bryce Young. Even though Bryce Young did look better, it is against the Cardinals, and they've been 50-50 all year. So I'm going to go with the Bucks to get the win over the Panthers. And Panthers, you got a bright future ahead of you. Keep it up. You got a very big NFC North showdown. You got the Green Bay Packers going on the road to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Packers currently right now up 21-0 over the New Orleans Saints. As I mentioned, I'm trying to get this video posted. So, of course, later details will be revealed because the Packers are ball again today. But they're going to be taking on the Minnesota Vikings that exercised some demons against Seattle because of what happened a few years ago in a specific wildcard game in 2015. Because Many years ago, the Seahawks beat them in a very close showdown, 10-9, after a missed kick by Minnesota. But the Packers, they've been struggling against Minnesota this year. And Sam Darnold, he didn't throw a single pick against Seattle, which that is impressive, I have to admit. Even though the Seattle Seahawks were still in that game, I do like the fact that the Seahawks were able to compete with the Vikings. Because of what the Vikings showed me, I am going to go with the Vikings because it's being played in Minnesota. Even though they split for the last few years, I think the Vikings are much more stacked than the Packers and stay in that NFC North title race. And I see the Vikings getting the win over the Green Bay Packers. And then on Sunday night, you originally had Dolphins Browns, but you got flexed to this game. You got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to Washington to take on the Commanders. The Falcons subbing out Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix.
I didn't know he was in this picture.
And it appeared to have paid off because the defense had 2 pick sixes. And yeah, Penix, even though he didn't play too well, they still got the win. But this team is so confusing. They do poorly with Kirk Cousins and have multiple interceptions, and then Michael Penix comes in and they still win. But it is the New York Giants, which is technically a bye week. They're going to be taking on the Washington Commanders that still have a chance to win the division. If, of course, a few things happen with Philly. But the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, performing out of his mind. I mean, this guy has been insane. And I think he's right now in the front running spot for Offensive Rookie of the Year because he's just that talented. I'm going to go with Washington because I trust Jaden Daniels more than I do with Michael Penix. Because Jaden Daniels, he's been having a highlight reel season because Jaden Daniels, he's been looking better. I do like him. And Washington, they got a very bright future ahead of them. I'm going to go with the Commanders to get the win over the Falcons, keeping their playoff hopes alive. And then a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game, although one of the teams ain't going to be in the race because they're already eliminated. You got the Detroit Lions going on the road to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The Lions pounding the living heck out of the Chicago Bears. And, of course, anyone can be on the Bears. I sure hope my team does next week. But they're going to be taking on the San Francisco 49ers that, yeah, it's just not getting any better. The 49ers getting destroyed by the Miami Dolphins. And it's just been getting so worse now. They had to bring in a 5th string running back. And that's how bad it is. And pretty much it explains of how the season has gone for the 49ers. Been riddled around with injuries. They look like one of the worst teams in the NFC West. But the 49ers, they do not need to pay Purdy because one reason, because he can't show up when other players are hurt. Because of that reason. So, because of the way the Niners have been banged up, I'm going to go with the Lions here because the Lions, they're going to want some revenge after what happened last year's NFC Championship game. I think it should have ultimately been Detroit representing the NFC last year because the 49ers, they still can't beat Kansas City, by the way, in case you all are new. But the Lions, I just see, are just so much better than the 49ers. And in my honest opinion, the Lions might post up 70 because that's how injured and banged up the 49ers are. So I'm going to go with the Lions to get the win over the 49ers and pound them to know its end and bite all their kneecaps. And San Francisco, yeah, it's not looking good for you in the future. And you might not be in contention for a Super Bowl ever again. Just realistically stating. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who do you guys think is going to win each of their games? Also, what do you think about my power rankings? I showed them up earlier in the show. So if you want to go check those out, it'll be at the beginning part of the show. But I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to do me a favor and smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Till next time, I'll see you all in the next one. Ciao for now.